It's another hot afternoon in the workshop of the Ultimate Recycler. We need to get some more stuff out of the emergency storage shed. This will be episode 55. I'm struggling to keep up. Let's go and have a look and see what we can find. We did really well last week. We made a fair bit of space up the top in the middle here, and those two buckets are the next things in my line of fire. And of course that retro arcade game stool is going to fall down when we move the buckets, so we'll have to do that as well. Let's grab that first. Looks like the bottom's actually popped out of it. Oh, that's the seat. That's the top part. They do come apart. A lot of people don't realise that. I think these were made in 1960, late 60s. It actually says somewhere. We'll get that out and have a look. And they're very popular amongst retro fanatics. Hope that's not damaged, that seat. Looks like a frisbee. Oh, it looks like it's a little melted on one side. So they're a Caroma made stool, and they come in different colours, and they're pretty popular, as I said, with the retro people, and they're often used with those little table arcade games like Space Invaders and that sort of stuff. I think this one has been close to a fire. It's a little bit melted there. The top's certainly got some marks on it, but we'll clean it up. And look, it's probably going to be a $30 stool, even in a bit rough condition. Some of the brighter colours get better money. And we have a couple of buckets here which I do not know what is in. And what I'm going to do, I've got you on my selfie stick. Let's extend it. And before it's out of my arm's reach, let's tilt. And this is like up periscope. What can you see in the buckets? I can't see it yet. I'm thinking maybe scrap metal, tools, nuts and bolts. I don't know. I'll get them down and carry them into the workbench, and you can tell me what's in them. Okay, well, as you guys probably know by now, looks like scrap metal. It's quite heavy. Everything seems to be heavy up high these days. Okay, this one's not quite as heavy, and it's not scrap. As you would have spotted, I guess, we have some Castor wheels. We should be able to sort those out and sell those, I think. All right, let's go through the scrap bucket first. I'm thinking fair bit of brass in here. That's great. Okay, a bit of extra light on the subject. And what have we got in here? That's just a piece of plate steel. We have, ooh, it feels like aluminium. It's got a bolt through one end. It reminds me of a center of a large battery. I'm not sure what that would be for. It's very light. I think that would be aluminium. Don't know. There's another one. Oh, that's got, okay. It's got a brass bung on the end, so I'm guessing that one may have had something similar, and maybe they screw into something. Perhaps they're a sacrificial anode or something. Some of this stuff did come from an electrician's house or his shed, and I've looked, there's a lot of weird stuff in here. Most of it's very, very old, and it's just pretty much going to be scrap. That's some sort of directional valve, could be even early air conditioning. Probably not. I think that's supposed to be a fluid. And maybe it was a air line with a receiver for moisture, a moisture trap. That's an early gas regulator. So that's cast aluminium, brass tap on the end. So we're going to scrap out a lot of this. Electrical conduit, that's probably copper pipe. Looks like it's brass fittings. There's some wiring inside. An element from a electric stove with some wiring with those little ceramic beads as insulation. Brass fitting on the bottom, so quite old. You don't buy them with big brass fittings these days. Oh, here's a tape measure. An old wind-up tape measure where the leather is completely disintegrating. The stitching's gone at least. We can see the tape in there is all rusty. So we'll get the bits of brass off that, but that's pretty well just rubbish. So lots of fittings. That's possibly a gas valve, or probably off refrigeration. I think the guy used to do a lot with refrigeration. That would be a thermostat sensor for refrigeration, I think. Hose ends. I've obviously sorted stuff into this bucket that I thought was worth scrapping for brass and copper, a bit of aluminium. I don't know what that is. What's it say on the tag here? It's probably a pressure, oh, it's for a Davy pump. So it's a pressure switch, I think, for a Davy pump. That, oh, that's actually a bit of household early silver plate. There's none of the silver plating left. It will be a brass or a base metal of nickel silver, but I think it's brass. It's got plenty of corrosion there, so that can just go in our scrap. Part of an electrical junction, cast aluminium, a little bit of copper pipe with, oh, actually that looks like it's been made up as a brush. I wonder if that wire is copper or magnetic. No, it's not magnetic, it might be copper. Yeah, lots of fittings. We're just going to salvage some brass off. There's a bigger piece in here. This is from a water pump. I wonder if this bucket actually had water in it. So really that's, I don't know what that is. It might even be brass. They often made these out of brass. I think it would be, or run a file across it. All I have to do is punch the middle of this little seal out there and it can go in the brass bin. That's a pickup filter from one of those stirrup pumps that you used to spray with. Lots of fittings, hose ends, some electrical contacts here off the big knife switch, you know, the big ones that you flick over to energize Frankenstein. Copper plates there, brass mounting bolt. Lots of good pieces. That's a fairly chunky piece of brass. Yeah, another one of these pressure switches. Even some push bike hardware, that's aluminium. So clearly I've sorted stuff into this bucket. It probably was in the backyard of my shop. That's I think it's a seal from a pump again. It's probably brass, that one. Nice big chunky piece here. The bolts are very rusty, but there's a chance that's a big chunky piece of copper, which is good. We'll get a bit of value out of here. Water fittings, bit of poly pipe, another one of those things with the bottom part corroded. So it's definitely aluminium, and it possibly was a sacrificial piece to stop electrolysis, something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. More of these. I like these. There's lots of copper in these. So big brass piece, copper terminals. So nothing very exciting. Hose fittings. Nothing very exciting unless you're a scrapper, because we all like finding lots of brass and copper. And lots of these terminals at the bottom. These big terminals that had wire soldered into them, they're normally copper. And you don't have to worry about the solder in the end or the bit of wire, because well, the wire will be copper anyway. So the whole lot can go in as number 2, and they are very weighty. So we'll sort this bucket. I'll strip it all. I don't need to show you that. It's pretty well just undoing stuff, cutting bits of plastic off. These things, the copper plates fold out and the bolt just hammers through. So I'll strip it all and we'll come back to you with some, oh, that's some old spurs that went clamped on the back of your boot and you G'd up your horse. Not that I've ever ridden a horse. Well, I have ridden a horse, but I certainly don't know much about it. I managed to stay on. That was a good thing. Although, funny story with that, the horse I was on walked through a huge big area of water. The road was flooded and it stopped, and I couldn't get it to go because I was very inexperienced at driving a horse, and it started pouring the water, and I found out later that's a sure sign they're going to roll. So I didn't exactly fall off. I abandoned ship. So that was a bit of fun back in my agricultural college days. All right, nothing else exciting in here, just lots of pieces. That's a nice chunky piece of brass. We'll sort all this out and we'll work out how much value with the scrap we've got. I think this other bucket is all wheels. We have casters off old furniture. We have these die-cast casters similar to the table legs we had in the last video. We have casters off trolleys. Oh, these are off an early tea trolley. They'll sell okay. We even have part of the chair leg with the caster on it. So these things do sell through the shop. They don't get a great deal. I might group them up. The less desirable ones I might sell as a group. the furniture casters will sell okay, particularly the ones with porcelain rollers that suit the early sort of late Victorian furniture. So we'll sort those out as well. I don't think there's a whole lot of value in here. We should get a fair bit out of this bucket. So I've got some work to do. Catch up with you shortly. And here we have all the scrap sorted. We'll go to the notepad shortly for the scrap, and then we'll look at the wheels. Cleaned it all up pretty well. There's a little bit of irony aluminium here. The screws just turned off here. That wasn't worth trying to get it apart just for a bit of cast alloy. And those things I've just left as they are. I probably could have even broken them to get some clean aluminium, but I didn't go to too much trouble. Big pile of brass, all nice and clean. That large pump section was brass. In fact, I think it's gunmetal, which is a higher percentage of copper, and some yards will pay more for it. Mine doesn't, or at least they didn't last time I went there. Some nice bits of copper. We'll probably get away with those going as candy copper because they're fairly clean. And this is all number 2 copper. These big chunky bits were indeed copper, so that's great. Some good weight there. A little bit of heavy melt steel here, which I do sell in Melbourne. I take down separately. The light pressing steel or shred, sometimes I just dump it out at the transfer station here for free. But occasionally, if I have boxes fairly compact and I have enough here, I will take it down. A little bit of dirty brass here. Just bits that I couldn't be bothered cleaning up any more than that. Incidentally, that piece of copper pipe with the electrical wires is actually wiring, and you can see I've cut it through with a grinder. It's got 3 heavy copper wires in there, but it's packed in with a white silica type material, and they were used in like army or official areas where there was a risk of explosion, and I have some lights on my deck that are known as explosion proof lights, and all the wiring went through copper conduit like that, and it's well insulated, so it could actually survive a fire quite well when your lights don't go out. But I think we'll get away with that in number 2 copper, even though it has a silicate material in it. I'll just put those ones in dirty brass. A little bit of stainless steel, small piece of lead, which I'm not actually going to sell. I keep all the lead here. I thought that was brass, but it's actually lead. And some general aluminium, mostly cast, but I've just included it all together for the sake of a price. So our prices, how much scrap was in that bucket? $62.20 at my last prices. So 6 kilos of brass we had, that pile. 6 kilos, nearly $50. Pretty good, hey? The only things I'm keeping out of this lot, I pulled a few little valves, and these valve caps are pretty handy because they actually have a slotted end to take the valves out. I tend to keep them. I put them on my cars and my trailer so that I've always got a little tool to take the valve out if I need to, and the spare valves might suit some bicycles I'm doing up. And there's little ceramic beads, insulation beads I'll keep for now. Not sure why. I don't know. I don't have to explain everything to you guys. So there we go. That's the scrap. Pretty good, hey, $62. Let's go through the wheels and see if there's any value in there. All the wheels now have been sorted out. There was a real mixture in that bucket, but they were all wheels. Value-wise, it's a bit of a mixed bag. These are actually in complete sets of 4, and they're your old T-trolleys or auto trolleys, but they're quite, well, they're obviously quite dirty too. They're also quite rough. A lot of the rubber on the tyres has perished. They have flat spots. There's a fair chance they were taken off because they weren't working very well. Some of them are quite worn and sloppy in the rivet and the axle. And also, that one has, but very few of them have the part that the rod inserts into. So, I don't know if there's a lot of value there. I thought I might just group the whole lot together, perhaps something like $5 a set. So maybe $15 for the lot. And if someone just wants one set, I'll do them at $5. There's some random casters here. These are all the die-cast zinc ones. No complete sets. That little set would have been good if there was 4 of them, but there's only 3. Only 3 of those ones. An odd one here. So I'll probably group all... In fact, I think I'll group a lot together. We might put all those in one box for $5 a lot. We'll see how we go. And all these metal casters, they're not in very good condition. These are actually nicer ones, but there's only 3 of those. Same with those ones. They're a little cast iron wheel, whereas most of these are just a pressed tin type wheel. I thought we might just put the whole lot of them in a box for $5 each. Oh, we're not 5 each. We might go 10 the lot. So $10 for the lot of those. Someone that does furniture restoration might see some value there. This little set is complete, and they're not in bad condition, although again they don't have the socket that they push into, but we should get 5 for those. These ones are really just odds. That one looks like it's probably off a clothes dryer. We might try 5 for a set of those and see how we go. This set's not too bad, a nice early set, and you don't need the inserts for these to push in, they just screw on. So I think we'd probably get, we might get 10 the set for those. They're all in good condition, they roll well. Now the top two are the better ones. These ones I think are piano casters. They're designed to take enormous amounts of weight. I've also seen very similar on safes. Anything that's really heavy they work well on, but you do need a really nice smooth concrete floor for them to work. I think we'll probably go $20 a set of those. They all seem to roll nicely. They're a little bit oily, which has protected them. So they not only roll, but they swivel. So probably not worth keeping for my workshop here. My concrete floor isn't quite good enough. If you have something really heavy and you have a little screw or a piece of gravel or something between this wheel and the concrete, it's like putting the brakes on. So I don't think they'll work very well here, but I should get $20 for those. And these are early porcelain casters. So there's a couple of the wheels that I may have even dug up when out bottle digging. Those ones look like they're off the bottom of a cast iron bed, but the framework has rusted off. And these ones would have been off early chairs. They've got a brass cup that sits on the bottom of the chair. There's 3 there, so we don't have a complete set because this one's different. These ones actually screw into the bottom of a chair or something like that, or a table. And these ones I think were similar to the bed ones. So I've had success selling those before at $5 each, because often people are looking for a replacement for an antique piece of furniture. Don't know if we're going to get $5 each for all of them, or it might take quite a while. I might say $20 the lot, put them all in a box for $20 a lot, or $5 each. So if someone comes in and is just looking for one and they don't want to buy the lot, they'd happily pay $5 per item. So we'll value them at $20 a lot as far as this goes. So, alright, I don't remember what that all adds up to, but we'll add it to the notebook shortly. And to finish off this video, we need to look at that bright yellow retro stool. And here she is in all its glorious yellowness. It's clearly been parked next to a heater. As I pointed out earlier, there's a section of deformed plastic right down, so that's unfortunate, and that's going to detract from the value a fair bit. Now it is a Caroma stool, if we can get some vision on the brand here, if we don't get too much blurriness and strobing. And I think the patent dates on these was late 1960s. Now the cap just comes off, as you saw how I found it. So a bit of a struggle one-handed while holding a camera. And inside we see some more details. It says Caroma, Adelaide, Australia. I'm not sure if you can read it. Australian patent numbers, design number, and I think the end of the patent number ends in 66. So they do date to the late 60s. They were probably made into the 70s. Now also, I mentioned they come apart. The centerpiece, if we turn it over, underneath is hollow, and it's an identical, it even has the same writing there. Now, they will actually just pop apart, so if I put my feet either side of the base, I'll see if I can do this while holding the camera, and lift up, they generally pop apart pretty easily. And what that allows you to do is actually store them away and take up a whole lot less space. So there you go. I don't know if that's something that anyone ever does with them, because they're not overly large anyway, but they do pop apart. And so we pop it back together. I have actually seen people hide things in the tops of these, because not everyone knows that the lid actually comes off. So if you find one of these, pop the lid off. You never know what you might find. Alright, I'm going to wash this up. It will present okay cleaned up, but it is a bit scuffy, and of course we do have that deformed section. But look, I'm going to get 25 say for it in the shop without any problems, I don't think. In good condition, I've seen them sell for well over $50. but they do need to be a bit better than this. I guess you could actually polish them up with like a brasso or a cut and polish, car cut and polish, but we're not going to be able to avoid that melted section, and it does wobble a little bit, possibly from that being deformed. Anyway, we'll write down 25 for it. I'll wash it up shortly and it can go to the shop. So where does that leave us with the notepad? Well, I priced out the wheels. Believe it or not, those prices I mentioned, $90. And I didn't think I was being overly ambitious. I think they will all sell at that. We could potentially get a lot more if I sell the porcelain casters at $5 each. And if we write down the stool at 25, we now have a total of $7.20. The 20 cents is really here nor there, is it? 15, 17, $177.20. Well, how's that for a heap of junk? I've just washed up the yellow stool. It actually doesn't look too bad now, but I still think we'll stick with 25. It'll sell quickly at that. So that brings our grand total so far from the emergency storage shed clean out series to just over $9,000, almost $9,100 on stuff that I'm not keeping. So that doesn't count anything that I've put aside for me or for potential restoration down the track. That's just what I've taken to the shop and pretty much all sold already. So it's going to be a huge value by the time we finish that shed. You know, it's good for me. This is what I do for a living, so I obviously need the income. I'm happy to share it all with you guys. I hope you're enjoying the journey. We'll catch you next week for another episode of this one, the clean out series. In the meantime, there's probably another repair video coming your way, and we'll be back at the farm too next week, so more farm cleanup videos. Thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next one. Bye for now.